weekends. Literally, I was just washing my clothes for the next week if I was on a client location. So yeah, I mean, business, consulting for about 8 years. Then while I was starting Eudaimonia coaching, my coaching practice, I did some contracting just to make sure, because, the first 2 years, I really didn't know what I was doing in the business, shall we say. So it was kind of a nice, buffer to be able to have the ability to contract. And then now I own my 5 businesses.
Yes, that's true. Yes, you're more than one business owner, you're a multi-business owner, and I love that. You started with one and you've grown so much. And I mean, you're all about finding your passion. That's what you help a lot of people do, and you are just amazing at it. So what about do you want to go through how you came to doing that? Because I know you've also been a TEDx speaker, you've done so many things. So talk to me about how you came across this passion of yours of helping other people discover that same thing.
Well, I guess when corporates stopped really inspiring passion, I was good at what I was doing, but I don't think I felt I was good at it. And I think in yesterday's talk, a lot of us resonated with the concept of imposter syndrome, right? Where everybody around you tells you you're amazing at what you do, but it didn't feel that way inside. And of course, I started digging. Long story short, I think I realized I didn't love what I was doing. I was great at it, but I didn't love it. And that's where the passion element came in. So what's my passion? And I think my journey was mainly about losing the passion, not having it, losing it entirely, to the point that I had an absolute major existential crisis that led me to quitting my job and nearly burning out. But thankfully, I had a very strong support network around me, so I didn't end up burning out entirely, which is great, because I've had friends who did. For me, I had to go back home, and back home was East, like Angela and some of us here. I'm half Japanese, and I think going back home to self-soothe was one of the best things that I needed to do. And I think I found the Eastern culture softer and much more, to an extent, if you're humble and you don't have that ego anymore, which I had quite a lot of it with the consulting that comes with the status, the money and all of that. I think once I lost that and I didn't bring that with me, I think I found a very supportive environment. I mean, Japan is quite harsh when it comes to work and stuff, but when you don't have that ego, you don't bring that with you, I think I found a very supportive community back in my hometown in Osaka, and I was very much easily assimilated back into that community for about 3-4 months when I stayed there. So that's how my self-healing journey started, I think, and I struggled really to logically make sense where my next career would be, where my career step, the next one would be, because technically, according to my CV, I should be another IT consultant, which I genuinely didn't care about. So I at the time, I was telling something else to the recruiters at the time when I was interviewing, but I think I was very clear about the mismatch in my heart around that. And that's when I truly realized that it's not about just the passion that I need to find, or at least how I understood passion back then. It was really more important to find my purpose, which is, in my understanding back then and now, is what's something bigger than you. What are you contributing, Christina, towards, so that I can channel my energy and my whole being to it. I came to a point where I just couldn't go back. I just couldn't see myself going back. There was that resistance, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone has felt it. To going back to corporate, there was a huge resistance, which was the reason I just couldn't settle in my heart. And it almost became a single road of no return. I had to find my purpose. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to carry on. I just, the options back in the corporate were not for me. And I think that's how I came across my purpose, which is not just passion in my eyes. And I think one thing that might be useful for some of us here, and I want to mention it, is that people may think that I had to find my purpose first before I started my business. But for me, it didn't happen in this way. I had coaching as a tool set, and I thought I was going to go. And initially I was everything. I was jack of all trades in terms of life coaching, business coaching, startup coaching, which I was good at as well, and consulting and career coaching. So I was doing a little bit of everything. And I'm sure, branding, experts here will tell me that's not the right thing to do. But, when you start, you just have to get wide. And that's what I did. And then eventually, I think I realized that the customers that come to me most were the people who were equally lost like me. And hence the responsibility of, I had to make sense why I'm doing this. And that's how I ended up clarifying through the business and through my first clients what my real purpose was. I think I had a grasp of it, at least intuitively, but it wasn't logically making sense back then. But I think definitely while I was contracting, and because of the type of clients I was inviting and attracting, I realized that my purpose is to democratize human flourishing, which is to help other people find their purpose too, because I struggle with it and I understand that struggle and challenge so intimately that I felt so strongly rooting for those people who I needed to help. So long story.
No, it's good. I want to ask a question though. Your conversation has brought up a couple of things for me. So one, hands up here, and use again the reactions and emojis. Who has had that thought in the middle of the night or throughout the day that you were like, I just cannot go back to the corporate world. The corporate world is not something I can go back to. Oops. I've lost you guys there. Yep, back. Sorry, I think there was an internet glitch. But I was like, hands up, the thought of going back to the corporate life is just not an option anymore. I mean, I'm still half in, half out. So yep, I've got a yes from Mark and a thumbs up from Ange. I agree. And Nikki, absolutely. It's something I feel like once that shift has been made, it's very difficult to go back. I know some people are still in that between or have jumped between and both. I've found it that it's, for me personally, that it's just something I can't identify myself with anymore. And even as I'm still working in Amex, I still sometimes say to my clients, the people that I work with, I go, how are you running this business? As a business owner, I couldn't take this. So it's interesting that mindset shift. And then the other thing you mentioned, Christina, was you said there is a difference between passion and purpose. And that brought I'm not sure I know the difference between passion and purpose. So what would you identify as passion, and what is purpose, and how do we differentiate that?
So this is not a universal definition, but this is how I explain it to my clients so that they're clearer. So passion for me, actually, let's start with purpose. Purpose is the direction. Think of it as the why, as Simon Sinek says it. I think he has made literature as popular as it can be. So think of purpose as your why, the reason why you are doing what you're doing. And I think if you can translate that in your career in one way or another, is the direction that this reason gives you. So, for example, for me, my purpose is to democratize human flourishing. Literally, I could be doing anything. I could be a teacher, I could be doing corporate trainings, I could be a coach, I could be a leader within an organization. It really doesn't matter where I am placed, but it gives me a very clear direction of what I need to be doing. Now that I've chosen the coaching industry and the coaching career, it gives me very clear options as to what next in my growth. Passion now is really what I call it the vehicle that needs to take us down that direction. So we human beings, I think we need to listen to our passion and what excites us and what we love. Otherwise, we're quickly going to run out of fuel. So look at it as the fuel, as the fire that keeps burning for you to keep going down the direction that you have chosen and that you know is true for you. So this is roughly how I explain in very short summary the difference between purpose and passion, but I'm not sure if that's clear for everyone.
I mean, I think no, it's a really interesting point, because I think I found, and it's interesting when you find your passion and when you find your purpose, right? Like, I think I found my purpose when I was at a low, not at a high. I think I made myself redundant from my favorite job that I loved. I did the job, don't know if it was too well or well, but I just basically got myself, and I planned everything for the organization for 5 years. And then I was like, okay, you guys don't need me anymore, and I can't stay here anymore, because I'm no longer adding value to this company, because you've got a plan now for the next 5 years. And I left that, and I entered a huge low. And then when I entered that low, I stopped again. And I know Andrew mentioned this earlier, when you actually get that chance to stop and reflect, is when I went, what do I want to do going forward? If I could do anything in this world, and there are some skill sets that I've gained over my career in corporate and studies, and so if I could do anything, what would it be? And that's, I think, when I found my purpose. But the passion absolutely is needed there to drive it, right? It's just because you know what your purpose is in life doesn't necessarily mean you've got the passion or the energy behind it, right? To fuel the fire, like you were saying. So there's a couple of questions that have popped up that I'm going to ask you. So one is from Angela. Can passion always be turned into purpose? That's one.
Yeah. Shall I start with that? Yeah.
Yep. And then I've got a couple more here from Alf and Trevor. So yes.
I think it's absolutely possible. Whether the timing is right, or whether sometimes we've got all the skills necessary, especially in a business context, that's a different question. And I think for me, and the concept that I use quite a lot that on the purpose finding journey with my clients is Ikigai, which is, in Japanese, Ikigai doesn't have to be something that you're great at. It could be a passion that you can just start. So it may mean that you find yourself, or we find ourselves, in a transitioning period as well. And I think that's not to be dismissed. Passion is still taking us in the right route. So think of ourselves as a train that has decided to go down one direction, not the group, the One Direction group, but a specific direction in the horizon. But I think when we realize that our passion is there and we need to switch gears, then we will need some, period of transition and grace in order to enter that route. And I think absolutely we can converge the two together. And to me, it's almost impossible not to do that in some aspect or not. We might be multi-passionate, so there's different passions that each and everyone may have, but there's definitely going to have to be one group of passions that will need to take you down your purpose route. Otherwise, I don't know how you can sustain that route, simply because it takes so much growth and so much dedication to go down that route, that unless you're passionate about it, it really doesn't matter whether you're good at it. It's whether you're passionate about it enough to be able to dedicate yourself to your purpose. And you need to go through passion. You need to use your passion. I don't see any other way. Of course, maybe passionate, and you may have a lot of different groups of passions, and that's where people get caught up with hobbies and so on. Absolutely important aspects to have in our life, but not necessarily to the purpose that we're looking to fulfill.
I think 100%. I think when you are blessed enough and you've got someone maybe like yourself even that helps you find that passion, that purpose, it makes such a huge difference. Because I know my purpose is about revolutionizing the education world, but my passions are dancing and, doing things like this and running these events that we're running and helping with sales. I've got lots of different passions, but I've got one purpose in life. And I know that up until the day I die, that will always be, as far as I'm concerned, my purpose, because it's going to take that long to actually revolutionize the whole education system.
We need to step on our passions, because we're going to put in the time and the effort and use those to converge towards that direction. And then we feel aligned, which is all about being on purpose. So totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've got two options for you now. We can let's talk about the business now. Okay, so you've managed to open up. You found your job. You opened up Eudaimonia, which is your business on helping people find their their purpose in life. And you have since then opened up a few, but let's talk about that journey. What was it like then opening up Eudaimonia and you know this, and now you are multi-business owner. You've got 5 different businesses under your belt. I know I have referred people to connect with you from all over the world about different parts of your business, or different businesses that you've got. So talk to us about that. Let's share that. How do you go from creating one and creating it successfully enough, and how that's evolved and changed? And I know Eudaimonia's gone through some changes itself in the last couple of years. And then you've now opened a few more. So I think, like, talk to us through about that. That's really, I think, an interesting scenario to share.
I think the transition was definitely switching gears from corporate, as you guys shared last night, was definitely a challenge. And I think it came with a lot of guilt of not having that paycheck, of kind of switching from a state of mind where you're getting paid and you're spending that money because you've got it, to having to invest that money into your business in something that doesn't give you the results straight away. Let alone, for me, it took about 2 years to make Eudaimonia cash positive in any sort of way. Because I don't know how to do it. But I think the few learnings I think that came from it was that I don't need to do everything myself, and it's okay to ask for help, which is receiving really what people want to offer and give you along the way. It's very important, and also reaching out, learning that I think I didn't need to be perfect at everything at any one point. I could focus on one thing at a time, even though the pressure was you have to do everything perfectly. I realized this is not going to be the case. So, for example, I'm going to mention a very, very simple little thing. When we have to do things on our own, especially for Eudaimonia when I was starting and I didn't have a team as yet, I literally had to say to myself, I can't answer every email immediately after it comes in. I'm going to have to make my clients wait for a couple of days because this is not as important. So that really taught me how to prioritize what's actually important and what's not. And of course, overwhelm comes, but I think it's very important to realize that we're not corporate. We're not expected to do the one thing that we're given to do within that region and do it perfectly. When you're a business owner, you have to do everything pretty badly, but it's still much better than trying to do everything perfectly and running yourself to the ground. So that was huge, I think, for me. And the other thing was, I guess in the corporate, because you've got a team, you can, sales can do this, HR can do this, and marketing can do this. I didn't have that luxury when I was starting up. So I think the learning here was to not rush. Really, it comes with a phrase that my mentor taught me, which is compare to despair. It's good to have competition analysis and kind of look at the competition and step up. But I think for me, I realized that it's okay to not rush, to actually take my time to do the things that I need to do. It's a long game. And I think that really tested why I've started my business and why I'm in this arena, I guess. And this is not for me to become a star or, a super coach very quickly. It's about doing what I love. And to do that, I don't need to rush. I need to do it with my whole heart and authentically, rather than just try to be this person that I'm not. And I think the last thing I'm going to mention here is, especially during the first couple of years of transition, I think the fear that we all go through, if this is not going to work, especially when you're seeing your savings just go, you see that graph just going like, it's like 2 months and I'm out, So definitely quite a vivid memory in my journey. And I think it's so important to be seen exactly as we are, where we are. And I think the fear of being seen small stops a lot of us from going into this amazing journey that can prove so beautiful along the way if you keep your faith into it. But I think definitely, that fear of being seen small, coming from a big brand, like Angela was saying yesterday night, and suddenly not having that brand represent you, or you being represented by that brand, is a scary moment for all of us business owners who are starting. And I think, small is beautiful if you allow it to be. And, turning that around has been a pivotal moment for me in my businesses. And it allowed me to build the other four much quicker than the first one, which took ages.
No, thank you so much for sharing. It's really interesting to see. And I mean, the journey that you've done so far. And if you guys aren't connected to Christina, I highly recommend you do. You've got her details on the chat. She's got, there's a couple of questions, and Nikki's asking, I mean, Nikki's got some really good points. Yes, one of the ones that I love that she said is, remember it's a marathon, not a sprint. So that I love that. And then she was asking about your other businesses. Do you want to mention some of the other businesses, Christina, quickly? And then from there we might open up some Q&A, because I've got some questions coming in, but let's open up a couple of minutes of Q&A so that we can chat with everybody. So do you want to mention firstly the other businesses?
Yes, so the other businesses are in property investment, and really it's about investing in real estate, and I absolutely love business, and Angela and Christina know that about me. I was before I started Eudaimonia coaching, I was heavily involved in a community of startuppers. So one of the areas, I'm half Greek, so when the economy collapsed back home, I really wanted to bring my consulting skills and business skills to younger generations. So I contributed quite heavily, I think for 5 years, in that community. So one of the things I've learned is how to raise finance and help them raise investment from big VCs and things like that. So I really didn't want to leave that part behind to an extent. So the other four businesses are really about completely systemizing processes and handling finance and so on. So I've got a different hat, and we talked about passion. So it's really about finding the direction, and again applying your different passions in a different way. And I think I've found a way in which businesses allow me to do that. So if you've got a purpose, if you've got a passion, then channel it through a business, for sure, is my advice.
Absolutely. So now let's open it up a couple of minutes to some Q&A before we jump into the breakout rooms. Trevor, you've got a question here about how to prioritize between passion, purpose, and duty.
I love that.
Do you want to elaborate on it?
Yeah. Konnichiwa, Christina-san. Hajime mashite. So that's, I love what you're saying about passions and purpose, right? Those are really important things to work out for you as an individual. But the thing that always, I think, sometimes gets lost in these kind of aspirational discussions is people have responsibilities and duty as well. And it could be that they're a carer, or they could be a supportive partner in marriage. You could have children. And so how do you still, execute on your purpose that you might have identified for yourself when you have duties that you've got to fulfill?
That's a wonderful question, and thank you so much for bringing it up. We were actually discussing about that with one of my fellow coaches and also a lot of my clients recently. And I think I wanted to bring a couple of new concepts. Has everyone heard of the concept of Ikigai, which is a Japanese way of calling the reason for being, the reason for living? Is anyone familiar with that? No? Okay. So some of us are, yeah. So in Japan, there's two concepts, actually. Ikigai, which is the reason why we're alive and why we live, and Ikizama, which is the way in which we live. And I think Ikigai almost is what encapsulates that purpose, that passion, that why, through the joy in life. So I think it's quite a very strong need for humans, for the human psyche, to identify with joy in order to fuel our dreams and our purpose, and make sense of life, make sense of our meaning in life. And we can use that for our work. It's not necessarily associated with work, but it's something that we can utilize towards making sense of our career. The other element is Ikigai, which is translated loosely as the way of life. And that comes with the heaviness of duty and responsibility. And I think what's beautiful about the Zen philosophy and about the Eastern way of understanding these two opposing, technically, concepts is that they are meant to be in balance, that we are, in essence, given our Ikigai, our responsibility, our circumstances, and we need to rise through them, and still we have access to Ikigai, which is our passions and our joy and our purpose. So really, it's not about having 100% of everything. It's finding our way through both because they're necessary, and that's why we're given the Ikigai, and that's why we're given our Ikigai. So all of our circumstances are absolutely necessary for our psyche to rise and choose what's important for us, not completely despite of what's happening to us, but because of that. So I know I'm romanticizing it. It's not as romantic, but there's definitely the duality that's important and that you brought up for discussion, Trevor, and that's why I absolutely love your question. So I don't know if I'm answering in a way that...
Yeah, I think you've answered it there, and the way I've always thought about it is striking a balance, right? You can never get that perfect situation where all of your passions are fulfilled, all your purpose is fulfilled. But there can be time when it does, right? And if you're in a relationship, you can balance time for each other to achieve a common goal. So striking a balance is always an important thing for me. Anyway, thank you, Christine.
Perfect. I think there was another question from, and I'm going to pronounce his name incorrectly, Hazlitt. And the question was, let me just scroll back up to it. Bear with me. It's up here. How do you differentiate your clients who need coaching or a psychological counseling?
I love that. So what I always say, I don't have a clinical psychological background. So for insurance purposes anyway, I am not supposed to give that. Plus, I'm not able to give that. So I think for me, because I'm a certified coach, I can identify those triggers most of the times. But I think it's really having an honest conversation and saying, look, if you need separate support, then it's a different, it's a different need there, right there. We've identified it. It's up to the individual to do what they need to do. Coaching is a little bit more active than counseling, and I think most people probably in the audience will know the difference. So coaching is really working with healthy people to get them unstuck from a situation that perhaps they don't have the time or the time and space to articulate and therefore resolve. So coaching really just creates the space for them to be able to make sense of what's going on and come out of that loop. Perhaps a vicious circle. Through that process, we end up identifying, of course, a few perhaps niggly issues that may need more attention. So it's really an honest conversation. And I think by the time somebody is coaching a client or that relationship, that rapport is built, these conversations are never, ever hard, at least in my context. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. But yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference between the two, and unfortunately I cannot do the other, so that makes things very clear for me and my clients. I don't do counseling, so. True.
Oh, well, no, thank you so much, Christina, for that.